In my second life, I didn't rush forward to push my childhood best friend out of the way. Instead, I stood back and let the falling billboard crush his right arm. In my previous life, I saved him. The billboard smashed my legs instead, shattering the bones. Even after I healed, I could never dance again. As I lay in my hospital bed, he told me he'd take responsibility for me. But behind my back, he was already tangled up with his first love again. When I caught him, he didn't apologize. He just got annoyed and snapped at me. Didn't you save me just so you could marry me? I already married you. What more do you want? Do you have any idea how miserable I am with you? You're healed, aren't you? You just can't dance, that's all. Why do you have to shackle yourself to me? Sometimes I really wish you would just hurry up and die. I can't stand another second of being with you. Despairing, I took poison. In the blink of an eye, I was back on the day I saved him. Watching his retreating figure run out the door, I sat firmly in my seat and buried my face in my food. Later, when my childhood friend, his right hand now amputated, asked me with red-rimmed eyes if I was satisfied, I had my answer ready. Of course I'm satisfied. I couldn't be happier. When I woke up in my new life, I heard Lucas screaming, "Enough. Why do you guys keep bringing up Chloe? Even if you think she's perfect, she's not worth a single strand of Sophie's hair in my eyes." After shouting, he stormed out. I finally snapped out of my daze and tested my legs under the table. Small movements. They were responsive. No stiffness, no pain. Thank God. I felt a rush of excitement. In this life, I could finally pursue my dream of becoming a professional dancer. Lucas's parents kept apologizing to me, promising they'd teach him a lesson later, and begging me not to take his words to heart. I didn't care. I just kept my head down, shoveling rice and vegetables into my mouth. I knew I wouldn't be eating much longer. Sure enough, barely 10 minutes later, his parents received the call. Lucas had been hit by a falling sign. His parents panicked and rushed to the hospital. Although my parents were unhappy with what Lucas had said earlier, our families had been neighbors for years, so they went along too. I looked at the half-eaten drumstick in my bowl and felt a twinge of regret. Couldn't the news have come a little later? At the hospital, the doctor told Lucas's parents that his right arm had suffered a comminuted fracture. Even if it healed, he would never be able to lift anything heavy again. Their faces went ghostly pale. This was effectively a death sentence for Lucas's painting career. His mother let out a wail and burst into tears. I glanced down at my own legs, remembering the sensation of walking over here. I pinched my thigh. The pain was sharp and real. This was happening. I wasn't dreaming. Watching my parents comfort the sobbing couple, I couldn't help but think of my past life. Back then, Lucas had been cornered by a group of thugs on his way home. They were extorting him and threatening violence. Sophie just happened to pass by, held up her phone, and bluffed that she'd already called the cops, scaring them off. Lucas was grateful for her saving him. When he found out she was poor but hardworking, gratitude turned into love. He started pursuing her. She was eventually won over, and they started dating. But Lucas's parents were dead set against it. They felt Sophie was too calculating. When I came home, I would often hear the arguments screaming from the villa next door. The shouting was so loud it crossed the garden and penetrated my bedroom walls. Later, our two families had a joint dinner. When the topic of a group vacation came up, Lucas, who had been sullen and silent, suddenly announced he was bringing Sophie, or he wasn't going. His father was immediately displeased. "This is a family trip. Why are you bringing an outsider?" Lucas shot back, "She's family to me." His mother looked unhappy but tried to soften her tone. "We don't even know if she wants to come." Lucas cut her off. "I already asked. She wants to." His father didn't hold back. What kind of self-respecting girl insists on tagging along on a trip when the boyfriend's parents haven't even accepted her? Do you think Chloe would do something like that? That was the trigger. Lucas exploded, shouted that line about Sophie being better than me, and ran out. Worried, I chased after him. I caught up just in time to see a heavy advertising sign falling from the building above. Without thinking, I rushed forward and shoved Lucas out of the way. The sign crushed my legs. The result was shattered bones. Even after treatment, I could only walk slowly with difficulty. Dancing was out of the question. Lucas sat by my bedside, guilt written all over his face. He said he would take responsibility. He proposed. I asked him about Sophie. He gave a bitter, wistful smile. Actually, I'd already started feeling like we weren't right for each other. I only held on to rebel against my parents. There's no point in wasting her time anymore. I believed him. But after we married, he kept seeing her. When I found out, he didn't apologize. He raged. Didn't you save me just to marry me? I married you. What else do you want? Being with you is torture. You're fine now, you just can't dance. Why do you have to trap me like this? Sometimes I hope you just die. I can't stand being around you. Later, a car came speeding toward us. He had a choice. He grabbed Sophie, who was perfectly capable of moving, and dove to safety. He left me, disabled and slow, to be crushed by the wheels. My legs were amputated. Afterward, he said nonchalantly, "You were already crippled anyway. Losing your legs didn't change much. Sophie is different, she's whole." I had become disabled for him, and that was his response. In despair, I poisoned our dinner. As he lay dying, Lucas looked at me with pure venom. "If there's a next life, I beg you, mind your own business. I'd rather be the one with the broken legs." Looks like he really meant it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come true. Though he only broke his right arm. Compared to losing both legs, he got off easy. Thinking back in my past life, he often claimed that if I hadn't pushed him, the sign might not have hit him anyway. Well, reality seems to disagree with his theory. My trip down memory lane was interrupted by Lucas waking up and going berserk. He was screaming, throwing things, and thrashing around the hospital room. His parents sighed, trying to calm him down. "Lucas, calm down. It's already happened. The most important thing now is to rest and heal. Your mother is right. Besides, painting isn't your only path. Don't fixate on it." Lucas couldn't accept it. He was a rising star in the art world. A master painter had once praised his talent, saying he was destined for greatness. How could he accept that he would never hold a brush again? He stared at his hand, eyes wide, shaking his head frantically. "Impossible. This is impossible. I can't be disabled. Quacks. These doctors are useless. I want to transfer." He tried to get out of bed, but his right arm collapsed under his weight when he leaned on the bed frame. He slid to the floor, landing on the injured arm with another agonizing scream. His parents looked haggard, aging 20 years in a single hour. I felt no sympathy. In my last life, his parents treated me well at first because I saved him. But over time, brainwashed by Lucas's complaints, they began to see my disability as a burden on their precious son. I wasn't blind to their cold stares and sarcastic remarks. That's why I didn't hesitate to take Lucas with me when I died. If they had shown even a shred of humanity, I might have just ended my own life and called it bad luck. Finally, his father snapped. "Mom and Dad are already stressed enough. Can't you grow up?" Lucas froze for a second, then screamed back, "You think I'm a burden, right? Then get out. Go have another kid. I'm useless now anyway, so why bother with me?" His mother just stood there weeping. Eventually, the doctor rushed in and warned him sternly. If he kept acting out, the injury would worsen. An amputation might become the only option. Perhaps holding on to a sliver of hope for his arm, Lucas finally stopped. I felt a sense of irony. Not for Lucas, but for myself. In my last life, the doctor said the same thing to me. I never knew if he was scaring me or telling the truth. But I suffered immensely trying to save my legs. Now it was Lucas's turn to suffer. Enjoy the ride, Lucas. I planned to just watch the drama from a distance and avoid Lucas entirely. But our families were neighbors, and my parents kept nagging me to visit him. I used dance practice as an excuse to stall. By the day of his discharge, I couldn't put it off anymore. I went to the hospital, treating it like a spectator sport. My parents wouldn't believe me if I told them I was reborn. Without the context of the previous life, they'd already forgiven Lucas for his rude comments at dinner, seeing how miserable he was now. In the hospital room, I frowned at the sight of Lucas. His hair was a bird's nest, and his face was greasy. The Liu family wasn't poor, they had hired a caretaker. But the blow to his ego was too massive. He spent his days wallowing in self-pity, refusing to shower or get out of bed. The room reeked. I stood there for 2 seconds before the smell became unbearable. "I'll let you guys pack," I said, retreating to the hallway. Lucas caught my look of disgust. A flash of humiliation crossed his face. His parents packed in silence. Leaning against the wall, a malicious thought struck me. I pretended to ask casually, "Where's that girlfriend of his? Isn't she coming to pick him up?" His mother huffed, slamming a bag down. "Don't even mention today. She hasn't shown up once since he was admitted." His father tugged at her sleeve. "Enough." Lucas, who had been silent, suddenly shouted, "Sophie texted me. She's been busy with work. She'll come see me as soon as she's done." His mother wanted to argue but swallowed her words. As his father helped Lucas downstairs, his mother stopped me, whispering, "Chloe, you and Lucas grew up together. His father and I always thought you were the only one suitable to be our daughter-in-law." I cut her off immediately. "Mrs. Lou, Lucas is an adult. He has his own ideas. Don't force him." She panicked slightly. "It's not forcing. He's just confused right now. If you just go along with him a bit, say some nice things. Given time, he'll change his mind." Then she added, "I know you've always liked him." I was stunned. How did I miss this delusional logic in my last life? No wonder Lucas was so selfish and cold. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. I wasn't jumping back into that fire. I smiled politely. "Mrs. Lou, you've misunderstood. I've always seen Lucas as a brother. Besides, he's fragile right now. If you upset him, he might do something drastic." She gave up, looking resentful. "Lucas blamed me for breaking him and Sophie up in the last life, didn't he? Fine. In this life, I wish them an eternity of togetherness. I did like Lucas once. But the moment he belittled me to impress Sophie, saying I wasn't worth a strand of her hair, that crush evaporated. Later, when the car accident happened and he left me to be crushed while saving the able-bodied Sophie, my feelings turned to pure hate. I have a bright future ahead of me. I won't break the law to get revenge. But knowing Lucas and his selfish parents, he and Sophie are destined for misery. I intend to watch them walk hand in hand into the abyss." After that day, I threw myself into dance practice, leaving early and coming home late. I barely saw anyone from the Lou family. 2 weeks later, I saw Lucas and Sophie walking in the neighborhood complex holding hands. "Chloe, perfect timing. Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Sophie." Lucas looked calm, probably because he was finally with the love of his life. I knew exactly who she was, but I just smiled. "Congratulations." Sophie feigned shyness. "Who said I'm marrying you? Don't make people laugh." Lucas gripped her hand tightly with his left hand, looking at her tenderly. "We've pledged our lives to each other. Who else would you marry?" I caught the smug look Sophie shot my way. I just felt exasperated. "Honestly, lock them together and throw away the key. Keep the trash away from everyone else." At dinner, my parents brought it up, sighing. "It's such a pity about that boy." "Yeah, they said a master painter was going to take him on as an apprentice." I focused on devouring my mom's pot roast, mumbling with my mouth full. Maybe he's happy. Maybe he doesn't regret a thing. At least, not yet. Whenever we bumped into his parents in the neighborhood, they looked miserable and aged. In contrast, Lucas was radiant. He even greeted me cheerfully whenever he saw me. It was a stark difference from the previous life. Back then, after I caught him cheating, he dropped the mask. He threw tantrums daily, claiming that if I hadn't guilt-tripped him into marriage, he and Sophie would have lived happily ever after. I used to cry in rage. "I never asked to marry you. I asked you about Sophie, and you said you wanted to be responsible." He would look at me coldly. "Wasn't it your family using business connections to pressure my parents into forcing me? I knew you liked me. Do you dare deny it? I bet your injury was staged too. I shouldn't have to carry this burden." It was laughable. I came from a good family, had a great education, and a bright future. Why would I destroy my own body just to marry a mediocre narcissist like him? I shook off the memories, gave Lucas a polite nod, and turned back to my house. If he thinks he and Sophie are a match made in heaven, let him believe it. I certainly wasn't going to tell him how long Sophie had been waiting on that road, or that the thugs who mugged him were actually Sophie's friends. Lucas and Sophie were getting engaged. The Liu family invited us. But I didn't have time to go. I was heading abroad for advanced dance training. Hearing this, Lucas's mother, who still harbored hope for us, finally had to give up. Lucas texted me saying he wanted to meet. I ignored him. To my surprise, he showed up at my door. I went out to see him. He didn't speak at first, just looked at me with a complex expression. Just as I was getting impatient and turning to leave, he hesitated and spoke. "You're going abroad?" "Yeah." "That's sudden." "Yeah." Sensing my coldness, he pursed his lips. Suddenly he said, "I'm sorry." I was surprised. He paused, then continued, "I didn't mean what I said that day at the table. It wasn't against you. I was just angry at my parents." I nodded. "It's fine. I already forgot about it. Don't worry." I kept my tone icy. Of course it wasn't fine. Lucas looked confused. He was probably wondering why I was still holding a grudge after he apologized. I couldn't be bothered to explain. "I have things to pack. I have to go." Whether Lucas remembered the past life or not, I would never forgive him. I returned to the country 2 years later. As soon as I walked in the door, my parents hit me with shocking news. Sophie had scammed the Liu family out of $500,000 and vanished. My ears perked up immediately. I pressed for details. Seeing my glee, my mother looked a bit conflicted but sighed and told me the story. Apparently, Lucas was devoted to Sophie. His parents realized their son would never land a girl from their social circle in his condition, so they held their noses and agreed to the marriage. They got engaged and quickly registered the marriage. After the wedding, Lucas's father tried to get Sophie a job. She refused, saying she wanted to start a business, and demanded $500,000 in startup capital. Lucas's parents refused. While they had assets, most were tied up in real estate and stocks. The cash was their emergency reserve. Sophie threw a fit, claiming they didn't treat her like family. She threatened suicide. Lucas sided with her. He argued that Sophie hadn't asked for a dowry or a fancy wedding, proving true love. He threatened to move out if they didn't pay up. Cornered, the parents wrote the check. At first, the company looked legit. His parents relaxed a little. Then, not long after, Lucas went to visit the office and found it emptied out. Sophie was gone. The company accounts had been drained. Simultaneously, all three of them received a message from Sophie. She said she was in her prime and couldn't waste her life with a cripple. As for the money, she called it compensation for her youth and emotional labor. To make matters worse, a crisis hit the Liu family business right then. They needed liquidity to pay a massive penalty, but the cash was gone. Under the stress, Lucas's father had a stroke. The mother and son sold off properties and stocks to survive the immediate crisis. But with the father incapacitated, the business was left to Lucas and his mom. They knew nothing about running it. In their panic, they made bad deals and were scammed out of even more money. It all happened so fast they didn't even have time to ask my family for help. By the time the dust settled, they were bankrupt. To pay for the father's medical bills, Lucas had to sell the villa next door. They moved out of the neighborhood in shame. No wonder the house next door looked empty when I arrived. I assumed they were on vacation. But my mother's tone was strange. She seemed more indifferent than sympathetic. That was odd. My parents were sentimental people. What happened? Under my questioning, my mother's face darkened as she explained. Right before they moved, Lucas's mother had come over. My mom, valuing their old friendship, told her to ask if they needed help. Mrs. Liu immediately demanded that my mom call me back from abroad to marry Lucas. My mom's expression soured instantly. She tried to politely decline, saying I probably had a boyfriend overseas. Mrs. Liu scoffed. I know Chloe. She definitely only left the country because she was heartbroken over Lucas marrying Sophie. Just tell her Lucas and Sophie broke up. She'll come running back. Lucas hasn't divorced yet? Doesn't matter. We'll sue for divorce in 2 years. Just get Chloe back here first to take care of him. She even suggested that once we were married, Lucas could take over my family's company so my parents would have an heir. My parents kicked her out before she could finish her sentence. Chloe, Mom asked hesitantly, do you still? I interrupted quickly. Mom, I have zero feelings for him. You can rest easy. She let out a huge sigh of relief. Since the Liu family was broke, I stopped paying attention to them. But a few days later, I got a text from Lucas asking to meet. I realized I hadn't blocked him because he'd left me alone while I was abroad. I replied, "No time. Not going. Don't bother me again." Then I blocked him. I also told security not to let him in. But I had to go out eventually. I ran into him squatting outside the complex gates. 2 years had been unkind. He had gained weight, his eyes were shadowed, and his face was oily. He was unrecognizable. My first reaction was an involuntary eye roll. Lucas saw it and smiled bitterly. "Chloe, I feel this hostility from you. Is it really because of what I said at dinner that one time? Do you hate me that much?" "Please," I said. "Hate requires energy. You aren't worth it. And don't pretend you don't know what your mother said to mine." He was silent for a moment. "Sophie came back to divorce me. She found a rich second-generation heir." "Oh," I said. "Riveting." Silence again. He looked at me, his eyes full of an emotion I couldn't place. "These past 2 years, I keep wondering. You used to be so clingy. Why did you ignore me completely the day I ran out? If you had stopped me, I wouldn't be like this." I laughed. "Do I look like a saint to you?" I rejected him explicitly. But Lucas didn't give up. He started showing up constantly to reminisce. I ignored him. My parents, worried, hired bodyguards. Unable to get near me, Lucas switched to texting me from different numbers. "Chloe, I regret it. After everything, I realized I actually like you. I only thought I loved Sophie because I was rebelling against my parents. I was wrong. She's a bitch. If my family recovered our money, would you be willing to be with me?" I blocked every number without reading past the first line. Eventually, the messages stopped. I wondered if he ran out of money for SIM cards. Then I got a call from his mother, sobbing, begging me to come to the hospital. I found out that Lucas had tried to leverage the divorce to save his family. He refused to sign the papers unless Sophie returned $150. Sophie, desperate to marry her rich heir, hired thugs to beat him into signing. In the chaos, his injured right arm was smashed again. The damage was catastrophic. They had to amputate. I didn't want to go, but his mother cried that Lucas had a message for me, that he finally understood why I hated him. I suspected he had been reborn too. So, I went to the hospital to watch the show. Lucas lay in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling, lifeless. When he saw me, his eyes turned red. Choking back tears, he said, "I had a dream. I dreamed of another life. When I woke up, I understood why you didn't stop me that day. Are you satisfied now?" I crossed my arms. "Don't act like I did this to you. Every choice was yours. Compared to what I suffered in my last life, this is nothing. At least you still have your legs and your left hand." He laughed miserably. "You're right. I did this to myself." Having seen enough, I turned to leave. As I walked out, I heard his final words. "Chloe, I'll give you an answer for the last life." I didn't expect to run into Sophie while shopping with my mom. She smirked when she saw me. "Well, if it isn't Princess Chloe." I glanced at her, thankful my mom was in the fitting room so she didn't have to deal with this trash. "We've met before, haven't we? No need to be so hostile. Or are you still mad Lucas chose me over you?" "Can't help it. I guess I just have that charm. He's so obsessed with me. I mean, I had people break his arm, and he still doesn't hold a grudge. He said as long as I have one last dinner with him, he'll set me free and even give me the last of his family's savings. Don't be jealous. Once I divorce him, you can have him back." Just then my mom walked out. "What is wrong with this store? I'm trying on clothes and all I hear is a stray mutt barking." I suppressed a laugh. Maybe someone left the door open. Sophie's face twisted in rage. "I hate you rich people. You think you're so special just because you have money. Just wait, sooner or later I'll be stepping on your necks." She stormed off. Mom watched her go, spitting on the ground metaphorically. I can't believe the Liu family was destroyed by that. I comforted her. "Walk in the dark long enough, and you'll meet a ghost. She'll get her karma." I said it casually, but 2 days later, it came true. Lucas set fire to his rental apartment during that last dinner. He burned to death, and Sophie suffered severe burns over her entire body. Hearing the news, Mrs. Liu collapsed and died. Mr. Liu, already bedridden, followed shortly after. Sophie held on for a while in agony before finally taking her last breath. Her rich heir boyfriend never showed up. Of course not. I had checked. He was a con artist who was planning to run off with Sophie's money anyway. My parents, soft-hearted as always, handled the funeral arrangements for Lucas's parents. The last of the Liu family's money went to compensate the landlord. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I finally understood what Lucas meant by giving me an answer. I checked my phone and found an anonymous message I had missed from the day of the fire. I'm sorry. I hope I can make it up to you in the next life. Please don't. Let's never meet again. Chloe. Dinner's ready. Coming. I deleted the message and ran toward my parents.